I can't believe I'm actually doing this. I am going to be reviewing 100 South African films in 100 days. Yeah, no. I'm doing this. I'm actually gonna do this. Okay. Hello, and welcome back to Pactolos. It's been a while. My name is Shibu, and I'm on a mission. I'm on a crazy mission to review 100 South African movies in 100 days. I can't even believe the words that are coming out of my mouth right now, okay? But we're gonna do it, and this is a challenge to basically get myself comfortable on the camera and also get my reps in when it comes to reviewing films. So movie we're starting off with today, movie number 1, day 1 out of 100, is a movie called iNumber Jozi Gold. And here I've got my papers. It's basically a little review worksheet that I created just to sort of help me. Something is going on with this mouse, and why Mara? So I've got my film review worksheet here with me, and it's basically just gonna be a little guideline to help me formulate my thoughts and gather my thoughts. So if I'm looking down or I'm looking at the screen, it's because there's stuff that I'm reading. So name of the movie is iNumber Jozi Gold. The director of the film is Donovan Marsh, and it was released in 2023. So what is the film about? Okay, so from my watching, the movie basically follows a cop duo, Chili and Shoes, and they are basically like in an investigative sort of detective type of team, and their whole plan is to catch this character called the Hyena Man. He's got an actual life hyena. And he basically deals in gold, illegally obtained gold or illegally mined gold, and he basically sells it on the black market. Let's see what this has to say. It says here, in the criminal underworld of Johannesburg, a jaded undercover police officer is tasked with cracking the biggest gold heist in African history. This could make or break his career. Okay, yeah, I sort of agree with that. So basically, when their first operation, when Chili and Shoes' first operation to bust the gold criminals goes bad, they get demoted and go work in the basement, where basically it's like old white men that are working there, and they are also working on sort of like that case, but in a different sense. They are mostly focused on people performing heists and doing heists, and the Hyena Man is also then still in a suspect that's, you know, floating around in the building in these dealings. We're following Shoes and Chili trying to bring down these criminals in the movie. Sharp. Who are the main characters? The main characters are Chili, played by that guy, Jozi. No, man, I'm lying. The main characters are Chili and Shoes. Shoes is played by that guy, Jozi. Now he's more famous for being Cobra or The River, and I think he's got his own show as well called Cobrizi. I haven't really watched either of those shows, but I've seen a lot of like YouTube shorts, or like short videos, you know, normally like clips. People will clip his performance and put it on like WhatsApp statuses and things like that. One very famous one that I know is the level of beverage consumption is on another level, eh? So yeah, that's him. What's his name? Presley Chweneyagai. Oh, please forgive me, Presley, if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Presley Choniaye plays Shoes. Dumamtali plays Chili. And then, let's see, IMDb has to have the characters. Surely. Why is it that in essay, like if I had to go to Google for a well-renowned, not even a well-renowned, like an American or Hollywood movie, if I went to Google and had to search for the movie, it normally gives you an option to show the cast. And then in the cast, it will tell you who the character is and who the character is played by. So, for instance, if you were to go look up Avengers, it would show you that Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark / Iron Man, right? But I'm now on essay movies, and I'm just seeing that this hyena man, I forgot his name, but he's called the hyena in the MPC. His name is Bonyile Mantsai, and that's all I know. I can't, it doesn't tell me that this is the character that he plays in the movie. So that's something I've noticed quite a bit with South African productions. I don't know if it does this for any other country, because I'm not really looking for them. But yeah, I wonder why it is that it's not formatted or set up like that for South African productions, but for American productions it is. Anyway, people in the movie. So the main characters are Chili, played by Stumo Mtali. Then there's Shoes, played by Presley Choniaye. And then there's also the Hyena Man. He's played by Bongile Mantsai. Then there's the Brigadier. She's played by Brenda Ngoli. We also have Notolo Dlamini, who plays one of the ladies going to perform this huge heist of gold. And yeah, those are the main characters. The movie itself is set in Johannesburg, in Jozi, and I think the filmmaking, the cinematography of it, does a very good job of sort of showcasing where you are and making you, or sort of thrusting you into the world, if I can put it like that, because in the very first couple of sequences in the movie where you see Chili basically being an undercover cop, doing a dealing in Joburg CBD, and also having to chase after one of the criminals, I looked at that and I was very impressed with how much of Joburg they actually shot in. I'm not very familiar with Joburg, but I could tell from watching the movie that if I would be able to spot out a lot of the places that were being shown there. I think there was a market there that they showed. There's Mandela Bridge, which is basically the opening scene of the film, which sets you there. There's a whole scene in the trains under the Mandela Bridge. And there's also like a high-speed sort of running chase inside of CBD, where you'll see certain restaurants, you'll see certain markets, and I think certain key areas where, if you're familiar with the Johannesburg area, you'll be able to quickly spot out and know this is for real. Like these guys are not saying they're filming in Joburg, but you're in like offices the entire time. So yeah, this showcased exactly where they were. So I think they did a very good job in the cinematography or in the set selection or whatever that whole department is called. And here and there you also do see, yes, there is also actually a scene where you see Mikuku. What's this? Mikuku? Shacks, yes. You see a lot of shacks. And there's a whole scene or a sequence of scenes that are shot in those areas, and my thinking would be that would be like Alex, where you see a lot of like poor people staying. So I think they do a really good job of cementing and making it clear in your mind and making it believable in your mind that we are in Joburg. Moving on to how they dress. I wouldn't say there was anything stand out about the dressing in the film, but that could be a good thing as well, because that means that it makes sense. The costuming department, I think, does a pretty good job. Some of the criminals that are in the film, criminals are generally known to be quite flashy, and they wear the latest clothing and designer labels, and you see that the hyena man is dressed in a very like flashy, almost like Versace looking type of outfits. We also go on to meet this other crew that is going to pull off the heist, and they're also dressed in very flashy clothing. They're wearing their Louis Vuittons. It's all white, and they even have this whole briefcase of money that they're throwing at people. So I think they really do a good job of matching the characters with the clothing that they wear. Well, even within the police firm, I mean, I'm not like a geek about how the cops dress and stuff, but it looks very much realistic. Like the cop uniform, the police uniform that they wear looks very, very realistic. Another example is the brigadier, played by Brenda Ngoli. She as well, is like this ladylike upper, I can sort of get about she's very fancy, so to speak, and you can see like she's got her eyebrows done up. She's always got a lip, either a red lip, I think is one that I noticed a lot. She's always got a red lip on her. You see that she cares for her appearance. Even in her uniform, she's got like, I think, a Louis Vuitton or some label belt, pentel skirt, ingwana, heely. She makes no mistake. Always looking good. And it also feeds into the character that she is, of this corrupt sort of official who is always looking to make a buck out of all of these arrests and out of all the investigations. You know what I mean? She's one of the corrupt ones. So I would say that the film does a really good job building the world and communicating through the set and through the costuming as well. Communicating who the characters are and communicating sort of like what they stand for, what their values are. You know what I'm saying? Because if somebody is very flashy, then they're gonna dress in a certain type of flashy way. And if somebody is very humble, like a shoes for instance, or not necessarily humble, but not well off, not of great means, you can see in the way that he dresses, in the place that he stays. So I'm speaking wrong. Anyway, writing and the structure of the film. Okay, the writing in the movie, I would say, is really good. They slowly but surely reveal the true nature of the film. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna try and do this review without giving spoilers. It's gonna be very difficult. But I would say, the story is quite good in the sense that the overarching story of basically this massive heist that needs to be pulled off, and all the components that have to go into pulling this heist off, and how the cops fit into trying to stopping and apprehending the criminals that are trying to pull off this heist. That overarching story is really well done because it flows really well, and you get to receive all the components that go into this big moment. And then also on a micro level, the dialogue between characters as well, I think, is done very well, because it supports the motivations of the characters. For instance, Chili is a person who is very much about justice, as I mentioned earlier, very much about justice and very much about doing what's right and making an impact on people, and you can hear it whenever he's having these conversations with Shoes about, we've let somebody go, we haven't caught this person? How many arrests have we made? You know, this person is killing women, is misusing kids, you know, is basically like a criminal, is doing all of these bad things, and we're not apprehending the person. That supports his sort of like values that they're trying to showcase to us about him being a person about justice. So you get to see that side of him, and it's also revealed in the dialogue. And it's not just him. Even the Brigadier Brenda, played by Brenda Ngoli, the way she speaks about how she does her job. One thing I actually found very weird about the character of Brigadier is how comfortable she was to talk about all the corruption that she's doing, like just plain open. It's not even a secret, like to say, oh no guys, I can't let you catch these people, or I need you guys to get this to catch this person because we need to make arrests. No, it's, why haven't you guys caught this person? Because now I'm expecting to get a cut of the goods that you guys are confiscating, type of thing. And she's saying it blatantly. Like, I don't know if that's sort of like a mirror on society, to say corruption has gone to that extent that it's not being hidden anymore, or, and I'm gonna assume that that's my take is gonna be that that's what it is, because so many of the aspects in this movie are so well done that I don't think that would just be an oversight and a writing I guess like something they didn't really consider and think about. Why would she be so free and open to just talk about her corruption to her colleagues or her subordinates? It doesn't make sense for it to not be intentional. So yeah, I think on a micro level, the dialogue between characters, the writing of that is really good as well, because it supports the story. It supports basically all the events that take place, and it also supports the decisions and the actions of the characters, because you heard Chili having a conversation about justice with Shoes on a seemingly unrelated issue, and then going forward you see Chili sort of being a little bit, you know, not doing his job the way he should, but to benefit people who are not privileged, or who are oppressed, or who are taken advantage of. And it clicks. Okay, yeah, Chili is that type of person. Chili is a person who wants to see right being done in the world. And okay, it's questionable how he goes about it, but you know that he is about justice. He is about making an impact in the world, because you've heard the dialogue, you've heard the conversations between him and Shoes, right? And what I like about the writing as well is that it's not just like blatant in your face, like, I am a virtuous person, I want this, you know what I mean? It's like you get to uncover the person's values and their beliefs through the conversation that they're having, without them having to explicitly tell you that, listen, I want justice, and that's it. You know, you get to, it's almost like getting to know a person. This is gonna be such a long video, but it's almost like getting to know a person. You know, when you meet somebody for the first time, you have conversation with them, and they don't have to tell you certain things about themselves for you to know what kind of person that they are. It's in the way they speak about certain things. It's in the way that they respond to questions. Why did they answer it like this and not like that? You know what I'm saying? And that gets you to uncover the type of person that they are, their motivations, what drives them, what their value system is. And I think the movie does a great job, a really great job in doing that. So shout out to the writers. Very heavy-winded. Next up, the acting and the performance. Acting and performance for me was really just, man, I'm so shocked. IMDb gave this a 4.4 out of 10, because so far this movie has just been outstanding. You know, The acting and performance was really, really great. Stuma Mjali playing Chili. This character, undercover cop. You can... he really plays his character very well, because his character is a person that is like a no holds barred. I am going to do what I need to do to get the job done, and I want a good outcome out of this, right? Man, I don't know how I'm gonna do this without spoilers, but some of the decisions that Stuma makes, like Stuma is one person, not Stuma, Chili is one person that really despises injustice, and you can see it in the actions that he makes, right? And I think Stuma does a very good job of communicating that. Shoes is a person who, yes, Shoes just wants to be a family man and support his family, do his job and go home. It's not that deep for him, unlike Chili. And you can see it, that what drives this man is actually his family. You know, it's not a quest to end injustice. What drives Shoes is that he's a family man, you know. He does his job, gets along with his colleagues, and then goes home. Everything about him is taking care of his family. And you can see in the conflicts that he has in the film as well, that, hey, look, I know you're trying to do this, but man, like, can we not get ourselves into trouble? I need to keep this job, right? Can we not go there? It's dangerous, because I need to get home to my family. Because I need to be a present husband, I need to be a present father. So I think Presley also does a really good job. And it's not just the two of them. The crew, the cast, really gives stellar performances in this show. There's Nokolo Dlamini, who plays one of the ladies pulling off the heist, and they have a very, I want to call it like they have a bigger reason for the crimes that they commit. They're not just doing it to enrich themselves, right? And you can feel it when they're discussing. You can understand why they're doing the things that they're doing. And they do a really good job of communicating the motivations of their characters, of communicating, and supporting the storyline, so to speak. So I think the acting here was really good also. And then onto my favorite part. Okay. This has to be my favorite part of this whole movie, was the cinematography of it all. This movie, when I watched it, made me feel like I wish I could have watched this in the cinema. It was so visually captivating, and it was just it was a pleasure to watch the movie. The scenes that or not the scenes, but like the shots that they chose to utilize. I mean, the first sort of like 20-30 minutes of the movie, there's a lot of drone shots that are being done. One sequence is basically when Chili and Shoes are going in to do a exchange or a sale between themselves, undercover that is, doing a sale between Chili and the hyena man, right? It's a whole operation. There's, background comms. Shoes is there in the van, there's speaking into Chili's ear. They're pulling off a whole operation, right? And there's this beautiful, beautiful drone sequence, drone flight, drone shot. I don't even know what to call it. But they basically go from the van, go and then into the air, showcasing you where the van is in relation to where the exchange is about to happen, and then the drone shot moves into the building where the actual sale is about to go down, shows you, lays out the entire floor plan for you. Like, it's like, now you know exactly where all the pieces are, how this is fitting into that. If this has to go down, shoes is this far away from this place. Beautiful. And I think that's really another way that they were able to sort of draw you into the movie, is you had all the pieces in your head. You didn't have to think about how things are gonna unfold, because it's laid out for you. You know, there's an exit here, there's this place there, the cops are not too far from there, there's a sniper on the roof looking at everything from up there. So the cinematography for me was really, really amazing, because the way that the shots that they just chose to use were just, it was just, I don't know, it was like dessert for the eyes, you know, a feast for the eyes is what I'm trying to say. It was just beautiful to watch, and it really made me feel like I wish I was watching this in the cinema. And I actually looked this up because I was so impressed with the cinematography. The cinematographer on this, director of photography, is Tom Murray. Murray. I hope I'm saying that right. What happens to my screen? There you go. Yeah, so the cinematographer, and this is Tom Murray, and I think he did a really, really amazing job. And then in terms of like the colors and the lighting, the camera sort of setup of the movie, man, the movie gave me this like very saturated color palette. You know, the colors were they were not vibrant, but they were very like rich, is what I'm trying to say. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Colors were very, very rich. And I mean, there was still a sort of like, not like darkness, a sort of like lightness to it, which I think supported the comedic side of the film, because that's another really enjoyable thing about this movie. As serious as it was still very like light on the heart. You're not feeling weighed upon and heavy, sort of how I would feel watching a Marvel movie as opposed to a DC Comics movie. Marvel, although the events in the movies are quite serious, but they still manage to keep like a very light and comedic tone to the movie, so that it's just enjoyable to watch, and it's not heavy on you. Unlike DC Comics movie, you know, it's very dark and it's very gloomy, and you know, it's like heavy, you know, the things that are happening here are deep. It's almost pushing you towards very, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I hope you can sort of see with the contrast if you've watched DC comics versus Marvel movies, is that, yeah, this iNumber Jozi Gold was giving me, you know, very light but serious, if that makes sense. Oh my gosh, that sounds like I'm talking about two different things, but that's how I felt in terms of like how they chose to sort of, the color palette they chose to use. The colors were very like saturated. They were not bright and vibrant at all. They were very like grunge, man. I could sort of get like so that's how it felt for me, and I think that supports basically very much the themes in this movie, because there is a comedic element in it, which I think is comedic relief, and that's how it's being utilized, because there is a lot of like serious stuff in here, sort of like heavy kind of topics, which they didn't explore too crazy, because there were scenes in the movie where, you know, they talk about a lot of what the crime or the gangsters are into. You know, there's children and women involved, and there's poor people being, you know, robbed out of their money or out of basically a better life. So, you know, when you play around with those types of topics, it's very easy to make it very depressive. But this movie didn't focus too much on that side of things. it more so focused on like the job that needed to be done and the characters themselves, their role in the job and what their actions are going to help with, but not necessarily focusing a lot on the people that are going to benefit from this heist. If I'm not revealing too much. Oh, I'm not revealing too much. So yes, the color palette of the entire movie was very saturated, serious saturated, but it still had a lightish tone to it. Like it had a warmish palette to it. You know, there was a lot of like browns, a lot of oranges, a little bit of yellows here and there. It was not a very dark sort of color palette, and I think that speaks to what's going on in the movie. You know, the warmish side of it is for me communicating the service that is trying to be served by Shoes and Chili. Yeah, so the warm-ish sort of color palette I think speaks a lot to the motives. Yes, the motives of the characters, which is justice and which is to help, to make an impact, right? And then the grunge sort of saturated nature of it, which is different from it being vibrant, for me then spoke to the seriousness of the actions that they take. I mean, it is a heist. There's cops involved. There's criminals involved. You know, as much as they don't try and focus too much on it, there's murder and killings that are happening in the movie. So I think they really did a good job. Cinematography, Tom Murray, you outdid yourself in this film. You really outdid yourself. And then in terms of another thing, cinematography. I think this movie, the highlight of it, the shining star in this film is the cinematography, because even the camera movements, the star of this film is the cinematography, because even the camera movements, right, supported what was happening in the film. I think I noticed a couple of sequences where you would sort of see, I think, okay, one specific one comes to mind. There's a scene where I think it's Chili fighting with the hyena man, and you know, it's like they're fighting, they're rolling around, and then like one gets knocked down, and then now there's rolling around, and you can see the camera following those movements, disorientating you as well as the viewer. You as well as the viewer, as the viewer, it's disorientating you, so that you are sort of that camera movement helps you to understand and also like pulls you into that moment as well. So that's one sort of example that I can remember like clearly. And yeah, this for me, the cinematography on this film was just a stellar job. Like this alone, the cinematography alone deserves at least 6 out of 10. IMDb, Galisola, man. Who are these? And there's 525 reviews. Like I really wonder why the reviewers did not feel that this was such an amazing movie, because I completely disagree. But yeah, cinematography, job well done. This was amazing. The shots, the style of shooting, the camera movements, the colors, the lighting. This is one of those movies that I really was like, I wish this movie came out in the movies. I wish it wasn't a movie that went straight to streaming, because it's so grand and so amazing and so good that it deserves a big screen. It deserves I just feel like you cannot get the full grandeur of this film just by watching it on your TV, and I was watching it on my phone. That's even worse. I feel like it needed surround sound. It needed the big screen TV. I mean the big screen at the cinema. So yeah, that's cinematography. Editing. I don't really know much. Editing, I didn't really notice anything special about the editing, to be honest, but I also don't have like a very trained eye for it. So for editing, I think I'll leave that out. So for the editing, I can't really say that I noted anything really. I think, yeah, they just, for me, from my point of view, they arranged it in a very logical, to support the story in a very logical way. I didn't note if they were using editing to communicate any of the themes or to support the storyline. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Sound and music. Casper Nyovest ukrele tender. Yeah, this movie, sure, because I think they play like 2 or 3 of his songs in the space of like 30 minutes, right? But it was very like upbeat, groovy type of music that was here. Yeah, I think the music did very well. One thing that I did not appreciate about the sound and the music in this film, towards the end of the film, they used like these not sound effects, but it's like kitlaring, like the music that they normally use it's not a person's song. It's like just like music that they use to sort of set the tone or set the mood of the film. There's one at the end that they used, that has been used in like so many South African productions. That for me took me out of the movie, because I was like, hey, didn't I hear this go The Wife? Yeah? Is this not from The Wife? Is this not from Adulting? Where do I know this sound from, man? I know this music. I've heard this music before. And I didn't appreciate that. I think that they could have afforded to get someone in to, create a similar vibe, but make it original and make it the movie's own. That I didn't enjoy, because now you're just thrusting me out. You're making my brain and my mind leave whatever's happening in the film and taking it elsewhere. So you're taking me out of the world. So the music was pretty much upbeat, and I think it fit very well with what was happening in the movie, except for that part. I did not like that part. I did not appreciate that last part. Then finally, what messages and themes was this film exploring? Okay, I'm gonna make this one very short. From what I could gather in the film and what I got from the film is that this movie was focusing on injustice. It was focusing on corruption. It was focusing on injustice and corruption. How it is that people are robbed of what is due to them. I think that sums it up pretty well. And then secondly, it was then focusing on making an impact. What can you do to right what's wrong? And what lengths are you willing to go to right what's wrong? Yes. There was a Robin Hood element to this movie, where it was like you take from those that obtained by, illegal and nefarious means, and then you give it back to the people that it rightfully belongs to. So injustice, corruption, making an impact, and righting what's wrong, and what are the lengths you're willing to go to get there. Then there's also subtle elements in there of like friendship, deep bonds. Friendship, we see that between Shoes and Chili, and brotherhood. sticking together and covering for each other, and sometimes doing something to protect your family that you would not normally do, that goes against what you believe, but because you love your family, you are willing to do those things. So those are the messages and the themes that this film was exploring for me. And my final thoughts: amazing. I loved this movie. I would watch this movie again, and I wish I could watch this movie for the first time again. It was that good. And I think it did a great job. I think they did an amazing job with this film. I'm very happy with it. And one thing I'm also very happy about is that Netflix did not mess this movie up. Netflix. Let me tell you something about Netflix. Netflix is very notorious for starting very well. Starting a story so good, getting you invested into a film, and then when it gets to the ending, they just flop. And I don't know how they managed to do this across so many different forms, right? But man, I'm so glad that this movie survived whatever's going on with Netflix productions, because this was really it was a world-class film, and I think it showcased the talent in South Africa so well, from the writing, from the cinematography, from the performances and the acting. The production as a whole did such an amazing job. I absolutely love this movie. Are we gonna do ratings? Okay, let me just do one. And it's not a fast rule that we're gonna do it. But if I had to give this movie a rating out of 10, I'm giving it an 8. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. That is my rating. So yeah, anyway, that is the review for iNumber, Jozi Gold. Absolutely love this movie. I'm sure you can see by the smile on my face that I enjoyed watching it. It was such a pleasure to watch, and it made me miss going to the movies. It was really, really such a job well done. That is movie number 1 out of 100. I will see you tomorrow for movie number 2 out of 100 on this journey to review 100 movies in 100 days. Bye. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so terrible. This is gonna be so bad. Anyway,